morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar.
And I'm Hem Korsara, and on the show today, wildfires continue to rage across LA. It's claimed at least 5 lives, forcing tens of thousands to flee their homes. Some blazes are threatening to engulf parts of Hollywood. A prolonged dry spell combined with strong winds has created the perfect conditions for LA wildfires to rage out of control. We'll bring you all the updates on this on the show today.
Also on the show, in updates from West Asia, U.S. President Joe Biden has said that the real progress is being made towards a Gaza deal as negotiators try to reach a ceasefire accord between Israel and Hamas. And this comes as Netanyahu's hostage envoy held a meeting with the hostages and missing family forum amid the family's fury over the government's inaction or probably efforts to try and reach out for a temporary deal. Of course, we'll get you all the details on the show. Let's start with the headlines.
Massive wildfires that engulf neighborhoods and displace thousands in LA remain completely uncontained, killing at least 5 people. 400 members of the U.S. National Guard to be deployed to help quell the disorder.
U.S. President Joe Biden calls wildfires ravaging Los Angeles the worst in California's history as he declares extra federal funds and resources to help the state. Says wildfires prove climate change is real.
The U.S. Supreme Court denies last-minute bid by President-elect Donald Trump to halt sentencing in his hush money case, rejects his emergency application seeking to block Friday's sentencing by a 5-4 vote.
Joe Biden says real progress is being made for a ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, an agreement he is pushing for in his last days in office. U.S. President says he met with negotiators on Thursday.
Israeli military says it intercepted 3 drones approaching from the east, including 2 believed to have been launched from Yemen. 2 of the drones were intercepted over the Mediterranean.
Lebanese lawmakers elect Army Chief Joseph Aoun as president, ending a more than 2-year vacancy. Lebanese citizens around the country celebrate Aoun's election. UN Security Council welcomes the move.
Venezuela opposition leader Maria Corina Machado freed after being detained during a protest in Caracas against President Nicolas Maduro, promises after her release that her country will be free.
England refuses to boycott next month's Champions Trophy match against Afghanistan over safety fears for their players in Pakistan. The ECB, along with South Africa, is urging ICC to take collective action.
Raging wildfires still continue to ravage Southern California uncontained.
Now, neighborhoods consumed by towering blazes, thousands of people sent frantically fleeing their homes, and the sky blanketed by smoke as swathes of U.S.'s second largest city lay in ruins. At least 5 people have been confirmed dead, but this number is likely to increase. And over 150,000 residents have been evacuated, and thousands of homes and other structures have been destroyed across Los Angeles County. People who had been forced out of their homes are now returning to their remains.
There's nothing that no one could do. They were just stretched too thin. You know, by the time firefighters from different counties got here, it was just too late for us, you know. So I don't hold any grudges. I just, I just wish it could have been different.
And so I continued to fight. My son was calling me. My other kids calling, "Dad, get out of there, get out of there." Evacuate me and who lived over there, Jason. We don't know where he is right now. He and I continued to fight until we couldn't fight no more.
A vast firefighting operation continues for a third day, bolstered by water-dropping helicopters. A couple of massive wildfires menacing LA are still burning uncontained 2 days after they ignited. But firefighters have managed to beat back another fire scorching the Hollywood Hills.
The ferocious winds that drove the flames have calmed somewhat, permitting crucial aerial support for crews on the ground. And this could provide an opportunity for the firefighters to make progress reining in blazes, including massive ones in Pacific Palisades and Altadena.
Even as it continues to spread, the Palisades fire is already the most destructive in LA history. It had ripped through over 19,000 acres of the upscale Palisades neighborhood, while the Eaton fire has torched 13,000 acres. Officials say the number of structures destroyed by the Eaton fire now stands at 4,000 to 5,000.
Amid the chaos, looting had broken out, with numerous arrests being made. U.S. National Guard soldiers have been called in to help quell the disorder. About 400 members of California's National Guard are being deployed to the fire zones. And President Joe Biden says he has pledged extra federal funds and resources to help the state cope.
Environmental health scientists and doctors have warned of the hazards caused by the massive clouds of smoke. Experts say the concentration of fine particulate matter in LA area has reached alarming levels. It poses severe risk not only to individuals with pre-existing lung and heart conditions, but also to the elderly and children.
Wildfires are a year-long risk in the western United States, but scientists say it is rare to see such a scale of destruction in January. Human-caused climate change is causing more severe weather patterns. Rising temperatures have caused a vicious circle of dry winters, followed by drier summers. Now, Southern California had 2 decades of drought that were followed by 2 exceptionally wet years, sparking fierce vegetative growth. And that left the region packed with fuel and primed to burn.
The obvious impact of climate change in this situation is that the average number of days per year where the vegetation is very available for fire has doubled since the 80s. So the fire season has been growing longer and longer in California.
And we move across to West Asia as the talks aimed at cementing a truce in Gaza between Israel and Hamas are ongoing. Efforts to achieve a hostage deal is intensifying.
In a press conference on Thursday, U.S. President Joe Biden stated that there is real progress in talks for a ceasefire and a hostage deal between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. An agreement the U.S. president is pushing for in his last days in office. Biden further added that his administration will be able to secure a hostage deal, even though Hamas is currently the obstacle to an agreement.
I can, but I'm not sure it's appropriate for now. We're making some real progress. I met with negotiators today. I think there's what's going on right now in Lebanon. We finally have a president. He's a first-rate guy. I spent time on the phone with him today, about 20 minutes to half an hour, what they have planned. They're also working very hard with the Lebanese military, accountable to the Lebanese people, not Hamas, not Hezbollah, not any other group.
Earlier, President-elect Donald Trump issued a stark warning regarding the hostages held by Hamas, stating that all hell will break out in West Asia if they are not released by his inauguration on January 20th.
In Tel Aviv, families of hostages gathered yet again to demand action, increasing pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government.
My son Ori, one of the 6 hostages murdered in captivity, endured 328 days and nights because you refused to make a deal. Do not wait for any other government or anyone else. Bring them home now. Return them to their families immediately.
Meanwhile, Netanyahu's hostage envoy, Gal Hirsch, held a meeting with the hostages and missing families from forum amid the families' fury over the government's effort to try and reach a temporary deal.
A deal would result in the release of only 1/3 of the hostages held by Hamas. This ceasefire marks the first step in a 3-phase plan, with the next phase aimed at securing the release of the remaining hostages in 2 weeks. However, Netanyahu's plans to resume fighting after the first phase have left families anxious, questioning whether the subsequent phases, including the return of the bodies of deceased hostages, will actually happen.
In ongoing efforts to counter Houthi attacks, the Israeli military intercepted 3 drones approaching from the east, 2 of which are believed to have been launched from Yemen.
Now, the first drone intercepted after sirens sounded in Golot, a kibbutz in southern Israel, while IDF confirmed that the second drone was downed over the Mediterranean Sea without triggering alarms in line with operational protocols. The third drone was also intercepted before it could enter Israeli airspace.
Now, despite ceasefire talks, the violence continues to escalate in the Gaza Strip. At least 8 people were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a house in the northern Gaza Strip town of Jabalia. Additionally, an airstrike on the Erbakan school, which was sheltering refugees, resulted in the deaths of 3 Palestinians, including a woman and a child, leaving 25 others injured. The Gaza Health Ministry has reported that the death toll in Gaza has now risen to 45,936.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority has reported the arrest of 247 individuals labeled as outlaws in the Jenin refugee camp amid ongoing clashes that began in December last year. Anwar Rajab, spokesperson for the PA forces, stated that these arrests are part of efforts to regain control over the camp, which has seen increased violence following the detention of several militants.
Now, PA security forces have intensified their operations in Jenin, a historic center of Islamist militancy in the Israel-occupied West Bank. The PA's actions aim to prevent groups like Hamas and the Islamic Jihad from gaining influence in the area. However, these operations have faced strong opposition from local residents and militant factions.
Now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met in Rome with European counterparts on ways to stabilize Syria and avert conflict as Turkey threatens Kurdish forces in a war-torn country.
Now, Blinken was on the last leg of his final trip as the top U.S. diplomat before U.S. President-elect Donald Trump assumes office on the 20th of January. Blinken held talks on Syria with foreign ministers from France, Germany, Italy and the United Kingdom. As the talks opened, Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani said Western powers were seeking a stable and united Syria a month after Islamist-led rebels toppled longtime ruler Bashar al-Assad.
Now, but concerns have mounted over Turkey's threats against Syrian Kurdish fighters who have effectively run their own state during the civil war engulfing Syria. A war monitor said that battles between Turkish-backed groups supported by airstrikes and Kurdish-led forces killed 37 people on Thursday. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces have worked with the United States on battling the Islamic State extremist group. Ankara, however, says this SDF has links with the Kurdistan Workers' Party, PKK, separatist militants in Turkey.
Now, the Italian foreign minister is also traveling to Syria to encourage the country's transition. He said Europe should review its sanctions on Damascus now that the political situation has changed.
The sanctions of European countries are decided together, but in my opinion, it's an issue that should be discussed because Bashar Assad isn't here anymore. It's a new situation, and I think that the encouraging signals that are arriving should be further encouraged.
Meanwhile, protesters from northeast Syria gathered at the Tishrin Dam to protest ongoing Turkish airstrikes, which they say are devastating vital infrastructure and endangering civilian lives. The demonstration meant to showcase unity and demand to an end to violence that was overshadowed by heavy bombardments in the area, resulting in casualties and chaos. At least 5 civilians were killed and 15 others were injured during the attacks.
And Venezuela's opposition leader Maria Corina Machado was freed after she was briefly detained.
And this was amid gunshots while leaving a protest in eastern Caracas. Machado was detained following her first public appearance in months, prompting her ally, former presidential candidate Edmundo Gonzalez, to demand she be freed immediately. Prevent Venezuela movement said that the motorcycle caravan in which she was riding was shot at. Machado had urged protesters to peacefully flood the streets and repeatedly asked members of the police and military who guarded polling stations during the election to back Gonzalez's victory. The Venezuelan opposition are protesting around the country in an 11th hour effort to put pressure on Maduro, as both the opposition and the ruling party claim to have won last year's presidential election.
Shortly after Machado's detention, various Latin American governments and U.S. President-elect Donald Trump lambasted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, saying in a post on Truth Social that the freedom fighters should not be harmed.
However, Venezuelan Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello dismissed opposition's claims. The leader, Maria Corina Machado, was detained in Caracas and called it a lie.
Ellos fueron los que anunciaron que iba a haber actividades y alarmaron, querían alarmar a toda Venezuela y al final terminan con la ridiculez de las ridiculeces, mintiendo que el gobierno había capturado a María Corina. Mira.
Thousands of Venezuelan opposition supporters and Spanish political figures gathered in Madrid to protest against Maduro regime, chanting Maduro has to fall. The demonstration was also joined by Spanish former prime ministers José María Aznar, Mariano Rajoy, and conservative opposition leader. They rejoiced as soon as they learned about the release of Machado.
Meanwhile, former Latin American leaders joined President Luis Abinader in a show of support for opposition leader Edmundo Gonzalez at Santo Domingo in the Dominican Republic.
Proclamamos con la fuerza de nuestra historia y con el ardor de nuestras convicciones que la libertad prevalecerá, que Venezuela recuperará su democracia y que juntos como pueblos hermanos seguiremos construyendo un futuro de esperanza.
Abinader offered his support to Gonzalez, while the Venezuelan leader thanked the Caribbean country for its support. The Venezuelan police have offered $100,000 reward for Gonzalez for his arrest, who has been living in exile in Spain.
Señoras y señores, hace entrada el excelentísimo presidente constitucional de la República Dominicana, señor.
All right, moving on. Barely 6 months after assuming office, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing the heat from multiple fronts.
His past role as the Director of Public Prosecutions is in the spotlight, and American tycoon Elon Musk is the man who put it there. Reports reveal that Musk has held private discussions with allies about removing Starmer from office before the next general election.
The owner of social media platform X Tesla and also a potential key cabinet member in Trump's upcoming presidential term, Elon Musk said they're set to remove Starmer plan is in motion by accusing the Prime Minister of failing to prosecute gangs of men who raped young girls when he was Director of Public Prosecutions between 2008 and 2013. He called on Starmer to resign from his post several times.
Now, the accusation soon caught on and reached Parliament as well. On Wednesday, Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch clashed with Starmer over the opposition's renewed call for a fresh national inquiry into the grooming gangs.
The Prime Minister has mentioned previous inquiries. He is right. There has been an inquiry into child sexual abuse, but it wasn't about the rape gang scandal. In its 468 pages, it mentioned Rotherham just once. Is the Prime Minister confident that we know the full extent of rape gang activity?
She's right to say it's one of the worst scandals. It's terrible. That's why I acted on it. Her recently acquired view that it's a scandal, having spent a lot of time on social media over Christmas, not once in 8 years did she stand here and say what she's just said. Not once in 8 years. They didn't act on the recommendations. They want a national inquiry. We had a national inquiry, the J inquiry, the J report. 20 recommendations, not a single one implemented. Not a single one implemented.
Far-right leader Nigel Farage also echoed the demand for an inquiry. The Reform UK leader said that the party will raise funds to front an independent inquiry.
If the government won't do this, and I do believe there is now overwhelming support on all sides of the political spectrum for this, and Parliament should not be in denial about this. If it doesn't, then we will raise the money at Reform UK and appoint independent arbiters, because we need the truth to be out there.
Farage has long enjoyed the backing of Elon Musk till an online spat a few days ago that triggered a fallout between the two.
All right, we'll call an end to this part of World DNA. We'll be right back with more news and updates on World DNA on the other side.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Ready to dive into your daily dose of news?
Bringing you what's trending in the West and all that's setting trends in the East.
And all of this served up with a side of insightful banter.
We don't just bring you the latest stories.
We bring you your talking points for the day.
And while you do that, from the busy streets of New York, I will provide you with deeper insights on the developments through the course of the day in the U.S.
And I will be here at the WION headquarters, getting you all the action from the universe of sport. All that you need to know about your favorite teams and players, right here.
The show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show. Let's get started with the headlines first.
Massive wildfires that engulf neighborhoods and displaced thousands in Los Angeles remain completely uncontained, killing at least 5 people. 400 members of U.S. National Guard to be deployed to help quell the disorder.
U.S. Supreme Court denies last-minute bid by President-elect Donald Trump to halt sentencing in his hush money case, rejects his emergency application seeking to block Friday's sentencing by a 5-4 vote.
Joe Biden says real progress being made for a ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, an agreement he is pushing for in his last days in office. U.S. President says he met with negotiators on Thursday.
Israeli military says it intercepted 3 drones approaching from the east, including 2 believed to have been launched from Yemen. 2 drones were intercepted over the Mediterranean.
Lebanese lawmakers elect Army Chief Joseph Aoun as president, ending a more than 2-year vacancy. Lebanese citizens around the country celebrate Aoun's election. UN Security Council welcomes the move.
A plane carrying 5 people explodes on the Sao Paulo coast in Brazil after overshooting the runway. Pilot killed in the incident, but a couple and 2 children were pulled from the wreckage alive.
Thick layer of fog envelops Indian capital with visibility reduced to 0. Sharp drop in temperatures recorded amid cold wave. Delhi Airport issues advisory for passengers stating impact on flight operations.
England are refusing to boycott next month's Champions Trophy match against Afghanistan over safety fears for their players in Pakistan. The ECB, along with South Africa, is urging ICC to take collective action.
And a report put out by Pakistan Center for Research and Security Studies cites 2024 as the deadliest year for Pakistan's security forces in a decade.
In terms of personnel killed in insurgent and sectarian violence, that is, and topping the region's hardest hit was Balochistan, that's suffering from a 75-year-old insurgency. The fact that the rebellion originates in educated youth spells the region out of nature for anti-Pakistan sentiment. Here's more.
Wednesday morning at the main square in Zehri in Balochistan's Khuzdar, some 60 rebels of the Balochistan Liberation Army grab control of key civilian installations. They loot a bank, vandalize a paramilitary station and set up 3 posts. This one was the latest in a near-continuous lineup of insurgent violence in Pakistan's Balochistan province that has exploded in the last year. Pakistan's civil and military security forces suffered 685 fatalities and 404 terror attacks in the last year alone. This figure is the highest since 2014. Compared to last year, these figures mark an over 66% surge in deaths due to violence and 49% more incidents. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan accounted for 94% of all fatalities and 89% of all incidents in the country. In Balochistan, the insurgency and anger against Islamabad goes back all of 75 years, virtually since Pakistan was born. It has been fueled by systematic looting of resources, lack of opportunity in development, and even state-sponsored kidnapping and murder. Elections, when held, have been marred by controversy. Down the decades, a rising trust deficit has led to educated youth resorting to active rebellion. Some names stand out. Shari Baloch, a physics MPhil graduate from the Karachi University, became an icon for Baloch youth. She turned into a suicide bomber and carried out the Chinese Confucius Institute bombing in Karachi in 2022. Mahal Baloch was an LLB student from Turbat. She turned suicide bomber who struck at the FC camp in Balochistan's Bela in 2024. Or Aftab Baloch Chatak, a postgraduate from Islamabad's Quaid-e-Azam University. He was selected as chairman of the Baloch Students' Council demanding rights before he picked up arms with the BLA. He was killed during an attack on a military post in 2021. There are several others on this list, educated youth who turned militant for the Baloch cause. Pakistan itself shuns responsibility and finds it convenient to blame India. The Baloch insurgency has been just one of Pakistan's troubles. Another, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, continues to strike at Pakistan hard too, and at regular intervals. The TTP that Pakistan alleges gets support from the Taliban across the border in Afghanistan has become the bone of tensions with its other neighbor. The question that arises is, how long can Pakistan continue to blame its neighbors for its mess within? Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And Uttar Pradesh's Prayagraj is all set for Mahakumbh, which will start on the 13th of January.
Well, up next, we bring you the preparations from the world's biggest religious gathering, from a team of specially trained horses for security to education programs for the children of sanitation workers. Here is all about the Mahakumbh experience. Take a look.
The city of Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh has undergone an extensive renovation and restoration drive to accommodate the needs of tens of thousands of devotees from around the world. To ensure the safety of visitors, the Uttar Pradesh administration has introduced an innovative measure. Deploying a team of specially trained horses for security. Around 130 horses, including American, London and Hindustani breeds, will patrol the sprawling fairgrounds. The American warm-blood horses, known for their agility and strength, are the most expensive, costing up to $8,000 each. London breeds follow at $5,000, while the Hindustani horses, sturdy and reliable, are priced between $1,000 to $2,000. These horses, along with their trained riders, will help manage crowds and respond to emergencies swiftly, ensuring a safe and smooth experience for the millions of pilgrims expected to attend this spiritual mega event.
किसी को चोट लग जाती है या कोई गैर होश होता है तो उसको इस पे बैठा के अस्पताल तक पहुंचाया जा सकता है और 200 गज 400 गज दूर से दिखाई दे रहे हैं.
The Mahakumbh Mela, a significant festival in Hindu mythology, is the world's largest religious gathering. A special Ganga Aarti was performed by women at the Triveni Sangam on the 5th of January. This Ganga Aarti ritual held at Prayagraj also serves as a rehearsal for the upcoming Mahakumbh Mela. Along with religion and spirituality, education is also given equal importance at the Mahakumbh. The Uttar Pradesh Education Department has established 5 Vidya Kumbh primary schools equipped with all basic amenities for the children of 15,000 sanitation workers who are toiling hard to keep the Mahakumbh grounds clean in Prayagraj. The initiative aims to provide free and quality education to the children of working families. In these schools, holistic education is being given through digital classrooms, educational kits, and learning through play.
इस वर्ष शासन ने पूरे कुंभ क्षेत्र में अभी तक 5 विद्यालय खोलने की योजना बनाई है। हर सैनिटेशन कॉलोनी में एक विद्यालय। ये वो बच्चे हैं जो बगल में हमारे सैनिटेशन कॉलोनी, जो हमारे कामगार श्रमिक आकर के बस यहाँ रह कर के काम कर रहे हैं कुंभ मेला क्षेत्र में सफाई का, उनके बच्चे जो उनके साथ जा नहीं सकते, उनके लिए सरकार ने ये व्यवस्था की है।
And a preliminary assessment by AccuWeather shows the flames blazing near Los Angeles are expected to inflict damages and economic loss ranging from $52 billion to $57 billion.
Some of the most affluent real estate in the United States is engulfed in flames in Santa Monica and Malibu. The median property value in these areas is over $2 million. Extreme winds from a storm are likely to feed the fires further, leading to the destruction of even more homes in these areas. AccuWeather predicts beyond the immediate losses to lives and property, there will also be long-term effects on health from acrid smoke. The company said that the region's booming tourist industry will take a big hit.
Jonathan Porter, AccuWeather's chief meteorologist, said this is already one of the worst wildfires in California history. He added, should a large number of additional structures be burned in the coming days, it may become the worst wildfire in modern California history based on the number of structures burned and economic loss.
After Kyiv cut off gas shipments from Russia through its pipeline, Vladimir Putin eyes other options for transporting gas.
Well, take a look at this next report as we dive into Moscow's plan to shield the country from financial damage. Take a look.
Putin says the country has options to export gas after Ukraine route is shut off by Kiev. The Kremlin seeks alternatives for pipeline gas shipments. Russia intends to divert pipeline gas to other customers such as China and increased liquefied natural gas exports. Despite calls to ban such supplies, Europe is still buying a record amount of super-chilled fuel from Russia. The volumes had surpassed what Russia was selling through Ukraine before January 1st, when Kiev closed off the 5-decade-old route through its territory. Ukraine's decision comes as the country refused to allow any more transit that funds Moscow's war machine. Russia has been an increasingly important supplier of goods to Europe over the past decade. The latest purchases show how difficult it is for the region to sever connections with Russia. Russia plans to triple LNG exports by 2035 despite sanctions. Last month, Putin said that he will continue to increase Russia's share on world LNG markets even as sanctions aim to halt this growth. He also expressed confidence that Russian gas giant Gazprom would survive the end of pipeline transport through Ukraine. The closure of the Ukraine pipeline highlights how Russia has had to continuously adapt its commercial network since their invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. However, Moscow has demonstrated that there are frequently alternative avenues available to Russia even when one market shuts. Ship tracking data shows Russia's LNG exports overall reached a record last year. Slovakia has taken the biggest hit from the Ukraine pipeline closure. The country is heavily reliant on Russian gas and its earnings from transit fees. Slovakia is said to lose 0.3% of its GDP as a result. For Russia, though, the plans are clear. Forecasts indicate that shipments to China would reach about 31 billion cubic meters in 2024. Beijing is projected to surpass Europe as the largest market for Russian pipeline gas.
With the Power of Siberia connection operating at full capacity, they are expected to reach 38 billion cubic meters this year. This route is forecast to make up for half of the volumes lost from Ukraine's pipeline closure. Gazprom also looks to increase sales through Turkey-Russia gas pipeline Turkstream, which runs under the Black Sea and supplies to some European customers. Russia plans to redirect some fuel to countries in Central Asia. The country aims to increase the capacity of a Soviet-era pipeline from Russia to Uzbekistan through Kazakhstan. Russia seeks to triple LNG exports to 100 million tons in 2035 from last year's 33 million tons. However, Western sanctions on all key future projects and the LNG tanker fleet complicate Moscow's plans. Business Bureau, WION, World is One.
Next up, let's take a look at developments from the world of technology. Pope Francis, the head of the Catholic Church and sovereign of the Vatican City-State, has issued a warning about the dangers of misinformation spread through social media and artificial intelligence. Speaking at the Vatican, Pope said that such tools could be misused to manipulate minds for political, economic, and ideological purposes. Pope emphasized the need for media literacy education to deal with such threats. He also criticized cancel culture and the reinterpretation of human rights, particularly the right to life. His warning comes just days after Meta announced the end of third-party fact-checking in the U.S., moving to a crowdsourced model for tackling misinformation.
A new study by Germany's University of Lübeck shows that artificial intelligence has significantly improved breast cancer detection. The research involved over 4,600,000 women and over 100 radiologists. AI-assisted screenings detected cancer in 6.7 per 1,000 cases. It's a 17.6% improvement compared to traditional methods. In traditional methods, doctors mostly prefer a mammogram to detect breast cancer. The study also found that AI reduced radiologists' workload, cutting reading times by 43% without compromising accuracy.
Humanoid robots took center stage at CES 2025 in Las Vegas, with companies showcasing innovative designs. California-based Intbot presented Nilo, a robot with a snarky personality designed for human-robot interaction, while Bordeaux-based Poland Robotics unveiled Reachy 2, a customizable platform for artificial intelligence research and development. Robots at the event demonstrated lifelike behaviors, including body language and micro-expressions, highlighting the growing role of robotics in personal and professional spaces. CES 2025 runs from January 7th to 10th, putting a spotlight on the latest innovations in AI and technology.
And England are quote-unquote refusing to boycott next month's Champions Trophy match against Afghanistan over a safety for their players in Pakistan.
The England and Wales Cricket Board, along with their counterpart from South Africa, want the International Cricket Council to take collective action.